Hello, and welcome to another episode of Transformational Leadership. I'm your host, Genesis Eeks, and with so much information coming at us about what is wrong with our world, we like to interview people who are leading the way and making a difference in their organizations, as well as impacting the world around them in a positive way. Now, today, I've got a special guest for you, and my guest is Tyler Long, who is making a really positive impact in the Branson, Missouri area. So welcome, Tyler. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you are doing in Branson, Missouri?
Yeah, Genesis, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you. My name is Tyler Long, and I am the co-founder of Transformation Ozarks here in Branson, Missouri, and the surrounding areas. And what we're doing is we are trying to make a lasting, enduring change in our community.
Lasting, enduring change in your community. That's kind of an interesting concept. And
Yeah.
to be honest, Tyler, my question is really about why Branson, because I've been to Branson a couple of times, and I remember the first time I went was years ago, and had taken a group of teenagers there. And my first impression of Branson was that it's a beautiful place. There's a ton of family-friendly entertainment there, and that's kind of what I think of when I think of Branson. So tell me what prompted this whole thing. Why does Branson need transformational change?
That's a great question. You know what? First off, I love our community. Our community, like you said, it's a tourism community. We are just kind of the little Nashville here. It's rhinestones, country music, and shows. But that is what you think about when you think of Branson, Missouri, and our community. I love it so much, but we do a great job of highlighting all of that and just kind of leaving all of the issues and areas of struggle for our community in the background. And so as we started digging into our community and kind of thinking about, there was actually a small group of us. There were three of us that got together and thinking about how do we meet the needs of our community in a way that hasn't been done before. As we started thinking down that path, we started digging into what are those needs, and really started identifying that, man, there is a lot going on here that we need transformation in. And so that just highlighted some areas.
So you and a few people were kind of sitting around and thinking about some of the issues that you were noticing in the Branson, Missouri area. So tell me a little bit about it. So when was that? How long ago was that? Like yesterday you guys started thinking about this, or, what are some of those things that you noticed?
Yeah, we started noticing things probably mid 2019. And as we started digging into that, what we were seeing is just like our poverty rates were through the roof. We have an extremely difficult situation with homelessness in our area. Foster and adoption was another one that was a really big issue. At one point, we had there were over 300 kids in our system just in Taney County alone, and there were less than 30 homes. So if you do the math, that's a really big issue. We have high crime rates. We have a lot of drugs in our community. And so you put all of these things together, and there's a real opportunity for some intense transformation.
Wow, I would have never thought of that when I thought about the Branson area. But I'm so glad that people in the community are thinking about it, and people like you decided to not just think about it, but also started doing something about it. So tell me what that story looked like. So you started thinking about stuff. You and a group of people were kind of noticing some of these issues back in 2019. So then what happened? How did it actually go from this thinking process into some action?
Yeah, it's a fun story, and it has been an incredible journey. In 2019, my pastor came to me and another friend of ours and just said, again, how do we meet the needs of our community in a way that hasn't been done before. Because there's a lot of incredible organizations here in our area. But as we've been digging into things, we really haven't seen that needle move in an effective way over the past, 20 years or so. And so how can we do this in a way that hasn't been done before? Well, we got a call from a friend of ours in just right outside of Dallas, Texas. And John Maxwell was coming. He was speaking at an event there, and they were launching this community transformation initiative. So when he was telling us this, he was saying, come on down and just hear what's going on. And as a bonus, you also get to hear John Maxwell speak. And so no brainer for us, hop on the plane, get down there. And we actually, we took a next step and had lunch with someone who was in charge of kind of recruiting some of these communities and gathering interest in communities. And we were super fired up, and we left there thinking, how can we get all the resources and everything we need to launch this thing in our area? How can we bring it to the Branson, Missouri area? And so we're super fired up. And then that was late 2019. And then all of a sudden, this little bitty thing called COVID hits and just completely wrecks our vision in that. And we thought, okay, now the needs of our community has completely changed, and this has taken top priority. And so we focused on that for a while. And as the dust started settling a little bit with COVID, was right when John started releasing and talking about his book, Change Your World. And after hearing about the book, reading the book, hearing this values-based curriculum that can bring about a lasting, enduring change, we thought, man, maybe that's the piece we can play in our community. Maybe we can just, because there's a ton of great organizations in our community, maybe we can just bring the values piece and really start transformation on the inside of people. And so we gathered 8 top influencers in our community, and we started a Change Your World table. And it was one of the most impactful, speaking personally here, one of the most impactful sessions and 6 weeks of my life. I remember looking at that list of values that we were going to go through. And I thought, all right, I'm going to give this a shot, but these do seem a little elementary. But after going through it, what was so profound is that those weren't elementary values. They were foundational values. And there's a very stark and important difference between those two. And so that time just allowed me to take that introspective look and fill in any cracks in my foundation. And the rest of the people around that table had the same experience. And so we just looked at each other after that and we said, this is it. This is how this has to go out to the community. So each person around that table was so bought in and loved it so much that they all agreed to go and then lead a table in their sphere of influence. And so we went from 1 table to 8 tables. We went from 8 tables to 26 tables. We went from 26 tables to, I believe it was 58 tables. And this thing just kept organically growing. And that's brought us to today.
That's amazing, Tyler. But tell me, I love that you're talking about these values and this table and everything. But for people that maybe they haven't read the Change Your World book, or they're not familiar with what the table is, and can you break that down a little bit more so people understand what it is that you're talking about? What is this table thing that you're talking about, and how does that connect with the values?
Yes, great question. So a transformation table is what I'm talking about. And a transformation table is a group of around 8 people that gather for 1 hour per week. For the Change Your World tables were 6 weeks. And it's a real time, an introspective time to look at the values that we have inside of us.
That's interesting. And so you're saying, like, are these values that are preset? Like, so you're saying there's 6 values. Okay. So it like a value a week, is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, it's a value a week for 6 weeks. And it's things like hope and listening and valuing every person, forgiveness, multiplication. Again, some very foundational values that we need.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, all right, now fast forward, because that was, we get through 2019, you're now in 2020, things are starting to getting dust is settling from the pandemic, and you start doing these tables and things are kind of growing organically, which is exciting. I love hearing that. To me, what I'm hearing from you as a true transformational leaders don't just think about things, they actually put those thoughts into action, and they become these catalysts for change. And now your approach, you're taking this from, you had this idea and this thing in your heart, it sounds like, about, hey, how can we really meet the needs of our community? What does our community need? So you had this big vision for your community. But I think for some transformational leaders, it looks like, hey, my organization needs help. This is things in my organization are not what they should be. And maybe we're having issues with communication, or relationships aren't working that well, or there's backbiting, or our culture isn't great, or, like those kinds of things. So it could be this bigger scale in a community, but transformational leaders also have a journey and a process, and they're taking action within their organizations. And it can also be in your family. Right. And it could be community, it could be your organization, it can be within your family and your friends. But transformational leaders have this idea, they see something that's not right in the world, but they don't just complain about it, they start doing something about it. So keep telling me the journey. I'm so loving what you are talking about today, and this journey of action that took this thing from an idea into, but I'd say it sounds like a movement in the Ozarks, Branson region of the country, which is incredible. So now you've got these tables and they're moving organically throughout the community. What next?
Yeah, no, that's great. And you're exactly right. That was the goal of this. Can we create an organic movement where people are buying into their own transformation? And I think that's the key. We, through one of the tables, one of my favorite pieces of feedback that we've ever gotten is there was a lady that went through a table, and she said, well, I don't know if this will transform the community, but it sure transformed me. And that's it. You got it, because that's how we transform a community, because it's a transformed people that transform schools, transform people, transform businesses, organizations, transformed people, transform communities. And so that's the kind of fruit that is coming from these tables. And so we, to continue
movement of transformational leaders, right?
Come on. That's it. Yes.
Well, awesome.
And so as we were
going down, tell me your story here in just a second, but I just want to seed this in early. So as you keep developing more of these transformational leaders, we need to get them on this program so we can hear their story. We'd love to be able to hear their own journey about what it looks like to become a transformational leader in their own right. So I'm just going to seed that in and see if we can get you working on that next. But all right, keep telling me the story of what's happening in your area.
Yes, and so we're doing these tables again. It's organically multiplying, and it's so great. And I had the incredible opportunity to speak with Carolina from the Maxwell Leadership Foundation, and just such an incredible resource. Was doing anything and everything to just help equip our community to bring this movement to light. Well, so we started having these regular conversations, and I just kept casting vision about what I felt like this could really be, and pairing that with the results that we were seeing. And then one day, and this is one of my favorite stories from this, from our transformative journey here. But one day she says, you know what, I really got to connect you with a gentleman named John Griffin on our team. And I didn't know anything about this guy named John Griffin, but I was super excited to talk to someone else who might be able to help us move the needle in our community. And so we set up a call, and I Googled John Griffin and realized that, yeah, he was an executive director at the Maxwell Foundation. And I was so excited just to have more influence being spoken into, and more leadership spoken into what was going on in our community. a little nervous though, not gonna lie. And so we set up this call, and he starts it off. He says, "What's your story? Why are you into transformation?" And then, cast me some vision. And so we cast the vision, and I remember it was such a profound moment. He stops and he says, "You know what? I just had a trip get canceled in my schedule." And he says, "I'm coming down to Branson." And I said, "Great. When?" He said, "In 3 weeks." And I was like, "Oh my goodness. Great. Yes. Challenge accepted." And so I told our team they were so excited. And we put together a summit. We tried to get all of our top tier influencers and leaders in our community to come into this room, and let's cast a unified vision of what's been going on, but realizing that that's just the starting block for something that can be extremely impactful in our community. And I will never forget, because if you remember in the beginning of my story, I talked about how while we were in the right outside of Dallas, we met with someone talking about community transformation through the Maxwell Leadership Foundation, but we weren't able to do that just because of some resources, but then also moving into that time of COVID. Well, it's so powerful is we were doing a lunch when John Griffin was in town with some of our influencers in the area. And that lunch went so great that I get in the car with John Griffin, and John Griffin looks at me and he says, "I'm calling an audible." I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "People are buying in. I think this can be a community transformation site." And my mind was blown, because I thought this is the matured vision that we really that we cast and that we wanted for this. And so we go to the summit where there's 80 to 90 of our top influencers in our community. And that's the vision that was cast. And that's the vision that was caught by the people in our community. And from there, we ended up continuing to do tables and building momentum with tables. We did a large launch event in our community where over 1,900 people showed up just to hear this vision about community transformation and how they can be a part of transforming the community that they love so much. And that has brought us to today.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that. I just love hearing your story and just the excitement that it generates. And I'm hoping that the other transformational leaders that are watching this, that are listening to us today, that they're also hearing some of the learning that is involved. Because what I'm hearing from you as well is that you didn't know how it was going to happen on the front end. You just kept walking and just taking that next step. And then all of a sudden, it's one of those interesting things that I've experienced myself over time as a leader, is that resources start coming to you. But they rarely come to you when you stop taking action, right? But the more you just keep saying yes and keep walking down the path, even scared. I love how, you might not know, you might be scared and might not have it all figured out. But as you keep saying yes, it's amazing the resources and the people that come alongside you that want to help lift the load and to get on board with that. And that's just incredible. So I'm hoping that other people are taking those learning lessons out of this today as well. Okay, so tell me, you shared one story about a person that was saying, "Hey, I don't know how this is going to transform the community, but it's transforming me." Do you have any other stories that you can share about that impact in the community of what you guys are doing? How is that creating a positive impact in your community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that was one of my favorite short stories. They're all my favorite stories, really. But, of true impact, I think one that has just stamped on my heart. And I remember thinking, if it was all for that story, it would have been worth it. That story is, and I won't give the name or even the title, because I didn't ask them permission to share this story. But what I will say is it was a person of high authority in our local government that was going through a transformation table. And I remember we were going through the value of listening. And there's a point in the table after you go through some of the readings and the benefits of that value and learning about the value. There's a point where you rate yourself, and then you begin talking about where you're at with that value. And I remember it got to this gentleman, and you could tell that something was really hitting him. And so it's his turn to share. And he says, I'm realizing that I have a tough time listening to people that I don't have the same value set as. And I thought, man, what a really great realization. And this couldn't have been teed up any better, because I said, just stay in that, because next week is actually valuing every person. so that was perfect. And so fast forward 1 week, it comes back around, and it's his turn to share again, and he's weeping. I mean, like weeping. Something has really hit him, and he's beginning to share. And he says, I've realized that over my tenure, which was over 20 years in the position that he had held, he said, I've been valuing people based on the call that I get about them, rather than seeing them as a 10 and giving them a benefit of the doubt on the front end, and seeing them as a valuable person. And he says that changes today. And I just thought, like, you talk about transformation, in all the streams of influence. But man, if we could what would that do for our community? What would that do for our nation? What would that do for our world if we all just even started there? Being able to truly see people for who they are and who they were created to be.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. And I love how it wasn't like someone had to tell him. It was his own personal realization.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's nothing quite like that personal realization moment that brings lasting change. I think that, when I think about my own life, my own journey, it's always been those moments for me where I get it for myself for real. And like, oh, today I want to be different. That's incredible. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Well, I could listen to these stories all day long, but I know we've got to wrap things up, and I'm so excited to hear about everything that is happening in Branson. And just thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing to make a positive impact in the world. And so if people want to get in touch with you, or they want to understand more about what you're doing with Transformation Ozarks, how would they do that? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you or to learn more?
Yeah, you can visit our website, which is transformationozarks.com. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Transformation Ozarks, and also Instagram, which is at Transformation Ozarks.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully we have inspired some other people, maybe some people in your area that want to get involved with Transformation Ozarks, or if they're not in your area, maybe they're in that place like you were back in 2019, and they're looking at their own community, their own family, their own organization, and saying, you know what, I wonder if I can bring transformation here. And I'm hoping that there are other transformational leaders out there that are understanding that, it does take some action. It doesn't take just good thinking. They've got to be able to put some things into action. And so that's my question for everybody today, is I just want you to think about it. What is one thing that you can do today as a transformational leader in your organization that's going to impact the world around you in a positive way? So you can leave your comments below. We'd love to hear more about what you're doing, and who knows, maybe you can be our next guest. So I'd love to hear more about what is happening in a positive way. I know that there are people that are leading positive change in this world, and we'd love to be able to share those stories more. So thanks everyone for tuning in today. Tyler, any last words for everybody today?
No, I would just echo what you said. Get out there, do it, even if you're afraid, even if you don't know the next step, because it's that next step that can really be the biggest step and bring the most transformation to your business or your community.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.